Rating the different pain levels you feel during birth from bottom of the pyramid, least painful, to top of the pyramid, most painful. I've absolutely loved giving birth both times, both totally different experiences. Truly feel that giving birth is like the closest you'll ever feel to heaven. It's such a euphoric feeling. This trend go around, I think it's so interesting to see like what people think is more painful than others. Best advice if you're scared of giving birth is to take a birthing class. Very least painful in my opinion is cervical checks. That's at the very bottom of the pyramid. I've never had a bad experience with a cervical check, and I've gotten a ton non-epiduraled. I can say those are pretty painless. I did not even know that you got a catheter until my cousin gave birth like a few days before me, and she was like, oh my gosh, the catheter was so painful. And I'm like, I don't think I got one of those. She was like, no, you definitely did get one of those. And I'm like, oh, well, I never felt it. I've seen some people say that it was so extremely painful. I'm no nurse, but I believe you get the catheter because if you have the epidural, you can't stand up, therefore you can't go to the bathroom. You need a catheter to assist in the peen situation. This one might be surprising to some people, but the epidural. I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, that needle is so big, I don't know how I'm gonna get the epidural. I'd actually rather go through the labor pains than get that needle in my back. In my experience, because I've been dilated to either a 7.5 or an 8 both times I've gotten the epidural, the epidural is counter pressure in comparison to what the contractions feel like. I will say the second time I got the epidural, I was definitely more aware of it. The hardest part about the epidural is the fact that you have to stay still. If you didn't know, you're on the edge of a bed, you have to be leaned over, you have this massive belly, and most likely you are experiencing labor contractions, and they tell you to stay completely still. These ones are all kind of on the same level, but getting your water broken with both boys, and honestly did not feel it. I did have my epidural at that point, so I feel like that's why I didn't feel it. That was completely pain-free. So interesting, the doctor walks in with like this long hook looking thing and just like pops your water. Yes, water does shoot out, which is just so weird. Birth is so amazing and so like such a crazy experience. For me, pushing was very, very, very painless. During my last birthing experience, pushing was a little bit more high stress. Personally, I never even felt myself pushing. I know the nurses would be like, you're doing so great, mom. And I'm like, I literally cannot feel anything. Like, what do you mean I'm doing great? Like, I don't even feel like I'm pushing. Bundle massage. I've seen a lot of people say that this was super, super uncomfortable. For me with both babies, I wouldn't say it was like pain-free, but it definitely wasn't something where I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember that. That was horrible. I never want to experience that again. I definitely do remember the nurse coming in and being like, okay, we have to do the fundal massage, and me being like, oh, I really don't want to do this, but like we have to. Not top of the pyramid pain-wise, but definitely not comfortable. This one is a little bit more niche because not everybody experiences this, but the sewing back up. So if you tear, obviously the doctor has to sew you back up. It's one of those things like when you get your tooth pulled and like you know what's happening even though like you can't feel it. With camp, I could not feel it, but I definitely saw it happening, and then I was like, ooh, that's uncomfortable. I can't believe that he's sewing me up down there. Key, I definitely felt the tugging and pulling and pressure a little bit more, which I did not love. I was looking at Tristan and I was like, are we almost done? And I was asking the doctor, I'm like, how many more stitches? Because I do not like this. The episiotomy recovery and stitches were definitely more uncomfortable than the non-episiotomy stitches. I also just wanted to like hold my baby and enjoy my baby and close my legs. This one my mom definitely warned me about, and I definitely did not listen. That is postpartum contractions. She did tell me that they get worse with every single baby, and that she did not feel them when she had me, but when she had her second baby and her third baby, she felt them. Those I was not expecting at all. It literally felt like I was experiencing labor contractions again, yet this time I had a baby in my hand and no baby in my belly. Every single time he would latch for whatever reason, I don't know why this like made it worse. He would latch and then I would literally be like, and try to like catch my breath because the contractions would be so bad. I think it's your uterus like shrinking back down. Honestly, again, not a nurse, not claiming to know anything correct medical wise, but knows why that happens or why it gets worse with every baby, let me know, because I remember being like, oh my gosh, someone help, I should not be in pain still. Getting to the very top of pain, you would not guess this one, but the IV that goes in your hand is one of my top 3 least favorite parts about giving birth. That thing is so uncomfortable, and I don't know if I've just had 2 really bad IV placements or if I'm just a baby or if it actually hurts. Someone please validate my feelings. But that hurts so bad, and I feel like you have to have it in your hand for literally an eternity. It feels like 24 hours. I remember after I gave birth, I was like, okay, can we take the IV out? And they're like, no, you still need like a lot of fluid. And I'm like, no, take this IV out. I hate it. I remember both times I gave birth, I sent a picture of my IV to my mom, and I'm like, is this right? Like, what's going on? This is so painful. It's one of those like dull, like constant pains, or just something that I was like hyper focused on both times that I just did not like for whatever reason. Surprisingly, the epidural needle in my back was less painful than the stupid little tiny IV that was in my hand. Actually, I can't remember if it's like right here or right here. But yeah, I hated that thing. Leads me to the very top of my list, which is labor contractions. That absolutely will forever take the cake for me. That pain is so vivid in my brain that the second time it happened, I literally got like flashbacks, and I was like, oh my gosh. First labor experience, I was induced at 39 weeks, elective induction. After I got induced, my nurse was like, hey, do you want to get the epidural? Your contractions are pretty strong. And I was like, no, I'm not in pain. I don't, want the epidural until I'm like feeling it. Big mistake. If you are planning to get the epidural as soon as you can get the epidural, because if you wait till it's too late, you're going to feel the pain. I felt my first real contraction, and I was like, okay, I need the epidural. And she was like, no, the anesthesiologist is actually in the other room, and you're not gonna get the epidural for the next 30 minutes. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna make it through this pain? By the time I got the epidural, I think I was like dilated to either like a 7 or 7.5. So I definitely got there, and I was feeling it. I was in so much pain that I couldn't even speak. I literally couldn't even cry. That was my big mistake with baby number 1. Second big mistake with baby number 2. If you've watched my birth story with Key, I decided that curling my hair would be more important than getting to the hospital. Now, my hair did look great when I gave birth, so do I regret it? No. But when I got to the hospital, I was dilated to a 7.5, and when I got the epidural, I was an 8, pushing an 8.5, which if you've ever given birth, at that point you're pretty far along. To know if any moms on here have missed getting the epidural because they were too late or they were too far along. Obviously, I know my body could do it, but do I want to do it? Absolutely not. That actually happened to my aunt with her last baby. She had 4 kids, and her last baby, she missed the epidural. That's what I reminded myself the entire time that I was pregnant and I was nervous about giving birth the first time. I was like, people do this all the time. Like literally every single day babies are born, and majority of people have multiple children, which means they're willing to go through it again, which means 1, it must be worth it, and 2, it must not be that bad. I'm sure my makeup looks horrible in this lighting because it's like so gloomy outside. And I'm on the back camera, so I have no idea what it looks like, but let me know if we land on any of these birthing experiences. Bye.